Interesting article here on the F1Chronicle.com going over Red Bull Racing and their hopes for 2025, very much centering on an early upgrade to their car. Now, of course, Max Verstappen has done a standout job in that RB21, as you would expect, but in terms of winning Grand Prix, I think they're a long way off, and China very much kind of personified that, really. Verstappen was a very solid P4, but he was running behind both Ferraris for a very long time. In the end, the Ferraris were disqualified, but he did overtake them both on track because of good pace, but he was a long way behind the McLarens and also the Mercedes of George Russell. In Australia, Verstappen was in and around second place, of course, and wasn't that far off Lando Norris by the finish, but the extreme wet conditions very much played into his hands with that one, and I think it would have been a very comfortable McLaren 1-2 if not for that. Liam Lawson, well, it's not really going as well, to be honest. He's not scored a point yet, and even with 3 disqualifications to drivers ahead of him in China, he was still all the way back down in P12. So, yeah, the car is not ideal. It is suboptimal for sure, and honestly, they're going to have a big fight on with the likes of Ferrari and Mercedes for that second place in the Constructors this year. But of course, we can't forget about the fact that 2026 brings these massively different aerodynamic and power unit regulations as well. So the earlier these guys can switch to the 2026 car, in theory, the better position they will be in when it comes to 26, 27, 28, and however many years we get in these new regulations. And let's not as well forget about the cost cap as well, which of course does play into the upgrades for these cars. But anyway, those are my initial opening thoughts. Let's have a look at what RB are saying ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix after this weekend's Chinese Grand Prix as well. Full article on the F1Chronicle.com. As always, Red Bull is pinning its hopes on an early upgrade to its troublesome 2025 car. As Liam Lawson struggles to find any pace from the RB21 whatsoever, even Max Verstappen could not make the podium in Shanghai on Sunday. It is clear that we have a technical deficit, team advisor Dr. Helmut Marko admitted to Service TV, revealing that a key meeting will take place at Milton Keynes this week. We will discuss how we can have a car that can fight for the win again and how long we need for that. According to Marko, he said he was going to be able to catch McLaren, within 3 to 5 races. The 1 race down, they have 2 to 4 remaining, so let's see how accurate that prediction is. I will be holding him accountable for that, by the way, just in case it doesn't happen, which I don't think it will, to be honest, but hey, stranger things have happened. This is Formula 1. The early rumour is that Red Bull will make the most of the upcoming free weekend to fast forward updates planned for a little later, given that the 3 Grand Prix take place back to back. That is, of course, Japan, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Yes, that is a triple header, believe it or not. Of course, we have something in the pipeline, Marko admits, but it also depends on how the different components work together and especially whether they work. If they work, we can be quickly successful again, but that remains to be seen. Until then, it's about scoring as many points as possible. Verstappen trails Lando Norris by 8 points after the opening 2 rounds of the season, but Lawson's situation prompted McLaren CEO Zak Brown to effectively write Red Bull out of contention for the Constructors' title. Mr. Brown, you are very brave doing that at this stage. We're worried, but we're not giving up, Marko said. In fact, Verstappen was reasonably upbeat after finishing 4th on Sunday, pointing the finger at the team's race strategy. In the first stint, I drove as the team wanted me to for the management of the tyres, he told Dutch journalists. I said beforehand that we would be too slow, which proved to be right. In any case, I did what they wanted. When asked about Marko's admission that Red Bull is worried, the quadruple world champion continued, it's not just that we have to worry, we just have to get to work. We know that we are not as strong as other teams at the moment, so we have to work on that, Verstappen added. I think that's all pretty well, but to be honest, I think overall, yeah, Red Bull are just a ways off of McLaren. That gap has very much opened up over the off season too, and we'll have to see how those upgrades work. Verstappen's been very good at Japan over the years. I mean, he's been very good everywhere in truth, but Japan traditionally is a very good track for Red Bull, but I think it's going to take a big effort for them to catch up to McLaren. Even with those upgrades, you're asking a lot. that is a big gap. I'd say they probably have about half a second on the field in race pace, McLaren. Maybe 3/10 around there. In qualifying pace, it is closer. It was closer in sprint qualifying. In the race qualifying, again, it was pretty close, but I think McLaren just have that edge. So I think McLaren overall do have a big race pace advantage, less so in qualifying, but you expect that to be the case because the race is where the points are paid out. Qualifying very important in Japan though, so if Verstappen does a very impressive kind of qualifying lap, he could make things awkward for them. But yeah, in the hands of Liam Lawson, and I've done a video, I've recorded it just before this one. I don't know which one's going to come out first, guys, I'll be honest, but I've done a video on Lawson just going over. I imagine that one will come out before this, so I will link that video at the end of this one if you're on YouTube. But yeah, it's not looking good for Lawson in terms of his pace overall, but I don't think Lawson's the problem. I've made this clear multiple times. You look at the drivers of Red Bull, they have either succeeded before or after Red Bull, or in some cases both. It's that second seat, it is the poison chalice, and that car is set up on an absolute knife edge that only a truly world-class driver, a world champion in Max Verstappen, can control it. I think it's a bucking Bronco other than that, rather than a Red Bull. It is so hard to control. Verstappen can do it, but I don't think there's many other drivers on the grid that can. Some people theorise that Yuki Tsunoda can, and I have heard that, but honestly, who knows? I expected Lawson to struggle compared to Verstappen, be some way off, but qualifying dead last twice in China in one weekend. Nah, I didn't see that coming in a month of Sundays, I'll be honest. But hey, let us know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe. And like I said, I'll put that Lawson video at the end of this one if you're on YouTube. If you're on one of the other platforms, do, of course, look us up. Plenty of different videos on there for you guys to look up. And of course, I'm not mentioning it in my videos I've recorded today, so I'll do so now. We have the biggest Formula 1 Substack community in the world. Of course, you can join for free as well. You don't have to pay to be a subscriber to that, but if you do pay, you do get some extra content on there. So yeah, see you soon for some more content, guys, on the world of Formula 1. I'm looking forward to Japan in a couple weeks' time. I got my Atari t-shirt on. I feel like that's fair enough. But yeah, I didn't plan this, by the way. I just wore this today. I like this shirt. What can I say? But yeah, see you soon, guys, for some more F1 content here on the F1Chronicle.com. Have a fantastic week, and I hope you had a great weekend last weekend, enjoying the action in Shanghai, China.